The lights in Redwood Supply and Hardware hummed above Mason Reed's head like tired bees. He squinted up at them once, then back down to the stack of 2x6s in front of him. The board smelled faintly of sap and rain. His hands were already dusty with sawdust from the sample cuts he had made at the back of the store. June tugged at the hem of his flannel shirt. "Dad, if we put the ladder on this side, then the window can go on that side, and then the stars will be right there when I wake up." She pointed vaguely upward toward the metal rafters and the gray afternoon sky beyond them. "Slow down." Mason slid one board out and checked the grain. "First we picked the wood, then we designed your castle." "It is not a castle," June corrected, shoving a stray curl out of her eyes. "It is a sky fort, with 2 beds. He glanced at her. "2 beds, huh? Just in case." She shrugged casual, in the way only an 8-year-old can be. "In case I ever get a sister. Or in case you snore too loud." "I do not snore." "You do." She grinned, winning, and he let the argument drop. Cool air drifted from a vent overhead, carrying the sharp tang of metal oil and the faint sweetness of the lumber aisle. Somewhere to their left, a cart squeaked every few seconds. A radio near the front hummed along with some old country song. Mason braced one end of the board on his boot and pulled the tape measure from his belt. As he stretched the metal strip out, his sleeve slid up just enough for the ink on his wrist to catch the light. A bird wings flung wide, head pointed into a storm it could not yet see. One feather along the left wing was bent deliberately imperfect. Lines of black and deep blue disappeared under the cuff of his shirt. He pulled the sleeve down out of habit. June did not miss much. He was not ready for questions about that yet. 8 feet, he murmured, marking the board with a carpenter's pencil. "That gets us the main platform." June leaned in on her tiptoes to watch him draw the line. She hummed tunelessly, a little rise and fall sound that used to come from someone else's mouth in a hospital room. He pushed that memory away. "Hey, Dad." "Yeah, someone is staring at us." He looked up. At the edge of the lumber aisle, a girl stood near a display of paint sample cards. She was just a bit taller than June, maybe 9. Dark curls escaped from a velvet headband and brushed her cheeks. Her dress was navy, with a white collar, the kind of outfit that screams stiff school photos and classrooms with chandeliers. Her shoes were too shiny for a hardware store. So was the pearl bracelet on her wrist. She watched them with a focus that felt out of place under the buzzing fluorescent lights. Mason caught her gaze and managed a polite nod. Kids stared sometimes. He went back to the board, flipped it, checked for warping. June did not believe in ignoring people. She gave the girl a full wave. "Hi, I'm June. We're building a little sky fort. Do you like forts?" The girl stepped closer, shoes quiet on the concrete floor. Up close, Mason could see how carefully she held herself. Shoulders back, chin level, hands folded for a moment before one slipped to her side, like someone had given her a script for how to stand in public. "Hello," she said. Her voice carried the crisp edges of practiced diction. "My name is Wren." Like the bird, June bounced once, delighted. Wren's mouth twitched, like she was not sure if she was allowed to be amused. Yes, like the bird. Mason gave her a small, reassuring smile and got to his feet, dusting his hands on his jeans. "I am Mason," he offered. "This is my troublemaker, as you can see." June elbowed him. "This is my dad. He builds things, mostly boring tables, but now he is building something epic." She spread her hands to indicate the entire aisle. "Do you have a tree house?" Wren shook her head, and the velvet band shifted slightly. "We have a yard," she said, "but the trees are still very young. My mother says they are not ready to hold anything important." The way she said important made Mason pause. Her gaze drifted toward his arm, to the place where his sleeve had ridden up again. The edge of the Thunderbird tattoo showed in the gap between cuff and glove-roughened skin. Wren went very still. The noise of the store seemed to pull back. Somewhere a forklift beeped. Someone laughed. The radio crackled. She took one more step forward. Her eyes were fixed on his wrist. "Sir," she said, voice smaller now. Mason's fingers tightened around the tape measure. "Yeah, my mother has a tattoo like that." The metal case slipped from his hand. The tape measure hit the concrete with a sharp clack, then skittered, slapping against his boot. June gasped. Mason barely heard her. Wren lifted a hand and pointed, careful, as if she was afraid of being rude, and too curious not to look. "The bird," she said. "A thunderbird, with one feather broken, but it still flies." The air in Mason's lungs turned thick. He pushed his sleeve up, not caring anymore, and looked at the ink as if it might have changed. There it was. The bird he had drawn on a napkin at 24. The bird Aurora had corrected with her own pen, laughing, saying, "Give it a flaw." perfect things are boring. The bird they had gone to a tiny shop in the city to put on their skin for good. No one else had that design. No one else was supposed to. He swallowed. Your mom has this exact tattoo. Ren nodded. On her back, on the left shoulder. I saw it when she was getting ready for an event. She told me it was from before, from a time that does not exist anymore. Her phrasing sounded borrowed from an adult's mouth. June looked between them, confused. Dad, the hairs on the back of his neck rose before he heard the heels. Sharp, clean clicks on the concrete floor, echoing off metal shelves, coming down their aisle. Ren's chin lifted at the sound. She glanced toward the front, then back at Mason like she knew she had said something she was not supposed to say. Ren, a woman's voice clipped and controlled carried from the end of the row. Mason did not need her to step into view to know the outline of that voice. Years dropped away in a rush, and for a heartbeat, he was 24 again, standing in a cramped studio that smelled of oil paint and coffee, listening to that same voice swear at a crooked canvas. But then she turned the corner into the lumber aisle. Aurora Hart looked nothing like the girl who had once painted his face in the half-dark for practice. That girl had worn paint-splattered jeans and mismatched socks. This woman wore a charcoal blazer that probably cost what he made in a month, slim black pants boots with real leather soles that hit the floor like punctuation. Her hair was shorter now, cut to her jaw, straight and precise. Her makeup was subtle, expensive, the kind that made people say she looked fresh instead of tired. Her eyes were the same, gray like storm clouds over the ridge outside town. The same eyes that used to crease at the corners when she laughed in bed. The same eyes that had gone flat unreadable the night she told him she had to go to New York alone. Now they widened when they landed on his face, then dropped as if pulled to his wrist. To the Thunderbird. Color drained from her cheeks. Mason felt June press closer to his side, small fingers wrapping around his own. He could not seem to move his hand to squeeze back. Aurora swallowed. Her gaze flitted to Ren, then to June, then back to Mason, calculating something he could not see. Mom, Ren said very softly, he has the bird, the one from your story. Mason's heart stumbled. Story. Aurora's jaw tightened. For a second the mask cracked. Fear flickered through. Not fear of him. Fear of what his presence meant. She stepped forward, touch on Ren's shoulder light, but urgent. We need to go, she said. The Polish in her tone thinned at the edges. Now, Ren. Ren did not move. Is he the one? Aurora's fingers pressed a fraction harder. Ren. Mason finally found his voice. Aurora. Her name felt like sandpaper in his throat. She flinched just enough that he saw it. For a beat they stood in the harsh light of the hardware aisle, surrounded by stacks of lumber and boxes of nails. All the small, ordinary things people used to build lives while something enormous hung unspoken between them. Then Aurora's expression smoothed over. She gave him a small, formal nod that would have looked appropriate in a boardroom. Excuse us, she said. To Ren she added softer, we are late. Ren looked at Mason one last time. There was a question in her eyes he did not know how to answer. She let her mother guide her away, patent leather heels making no sound beside Aurora's sharp steps. The scent of her perfume lingered after she turned the corner, something citrus and clean and faintly familiar. June tugged his hand. Dad, who was that? Mason stared at the empty end of the aisle. His wrist burned under his skin. In the story, Ren had said. He did not answer June. The words lodged behind the weight in his chest. The humming lights overhead seemed louder than before. For the first time in a long time, surrounded by boards and brackets and screws, Mason Reed felt like there was nothing in this store that could help him fix what had just cracked open inside his life. Tóm tắt tiếng Việt Phan một. Mason Reed một thổ một qua vơ ở thị trấn Redwood Falls dẫn con gái 8 tuổi là June đến cửa hàng dụng cụ để mua gỗ xây Skyfort trên cây. Khi anh đang đổ gỗ tay áo trượt lên để lộ hình xăm con chim sám Thunderbird với một chiếc lông gãy hình xăm mà anh từng thiết kế cùng người yêu cũ Aurora từ nhiều năm trước. Một bé gái ăn mặc chỉnh tề tên Ren tiến lại gần và nhận ra hình xăm, nói rằng mẹ em cũng có hình y hết ở vai và đó là con chim trong câu chuyện mẹ vẫn kể. Ngay sau đó Aurora xuất hiện ở cuối dãy kế giữa, đã là một người phụ nữ thành đạt lạnh lùng, nhưng khi thấy Mason và hình xăm cô bàng hoàng rõ rệt. Ren hỏi thẳng mẹ, liệu Mason có phải người đàn ông trong câu chuyện không, khiến không khí càng căng thẳng. Aurora vội vàng kéo Ren rời khỏi cửa hàng, chỉ kịp gật đầu xã giao với Mason. June tò mò hỏi, bố người phụ nữ đó là ai? Nhưng Mason không trả lời được. Anh đừng chết lặng giữa lối, đi cảm giác như cả cuộc đời mình vừa xuất hiện một vết nứt lớn mà anh không biết phải xử lý thế nào. The automatic doors sighed shut behind them as Mason and June stepped out into the parking lot. The air over Redwood Falls was heavy low clouds pressed together like a bruise. A faint smear of pine smoke hung above the rooftops from someone burning brush up in the hills. Mason blinked against the sudden gray light. Dad, June tilted her head. You forgot the screws. He looked down. His hands were empty. The cart beside him held only boards. The tape measure was clipped to his belt again. He had no memory of picking it up. Right. His voice came out hoarse. Guess we will have to survive without screws for one afternoon. June squinted at him suspicious. You always say the hardware is the most important part. Today the woodwinds, he said. She watched him for another second, then hopped up to grab the side of the cart and ride it over the speed bump, laughter bouncing off concrete. The wheels rattled hard. He let her noise fill the space his thoughts were trying to claim. In the truck she talked almost all the way home, words piling over each other. Did you see her shoes? They were so shiny, and her hair was like in those movies where everyone has perfect hair for no reason. Do you think she has a dog? She feels like she has a dog. Mason grunted at the right times. His hands were steady on the wheel. The inside of his head was not. A yard with tiny trees, June said, as if she had been turning it over. You could still build something, just small, like a fairy fort. Maybe, he said. She fell quiet for a moment, looking out the window at the passing storefronts. The familiar square, the diner with the faded sign, the little bookstore with paperbacks wedged in the window. The normal life he had been holding together, with routine and plywood. That lady, June tried again, more careful this time. Do you know her? His fingers tightened on the steering wheel. The leather groaned softly. I used to, he said. Like used to? Yeah. June thought about that. She looked at you weird, she said at last. And at your wrist, like she saw a ghost. He did not know how to answer that, so he turned into their driveway instead. The house was a one-story with chipped blue paint and a deep front porch. The tree in the backyard reared up behind the roofline branches, stretching like arms. Mason killed the engine. You hungry? He asked. Always. Go start on homework. I will bring in the wood, and then we can do grilled cheese. You make it too crispy. You still eat it. She made a face, but she went inside backpack, bumping against her side. The screen door creaked and slapped. For a moment, he stayed where he was, hands still on the wheel. The sky deepened another shade, the kind of slow darkening that sometimes ended in rain, and sometimes just sat there, undecided. He looked down at his wrist. The Thunderbird stared back ink lines firm against his skin. For years he had gotten used to the way people glanced at it, maybe admired the work, then moved on. It had been personal, but quiet. A mark of a younger version of himself. Something he only explained to Lila, and only once in the early days. Now a child had pointed at it and said, My mother has that. His heart thumped in his chest, heavy and irregular. He climbed out of the truck and hauled the boards from the bed one by one. Each length of lumber settled on his shoulder with a solid weight. The familiar drag of the work steadied him a little. He stacked the boards near the base of the oak, the rough bark scraping his forearm when he brushed too close. The skeleton of the treehouse waited above, just a platform outline and a few nailed beams so far. He set the last board down harder than he meant to. It thunked against the others. In the kitchen, June sat at the table math worksheet spread out in front of her, pencil tapping. The radio on the counter murmured a local DJ talking about weekend weather. Mason flipped sandwiches in the skillet, the smell of butter filling the small room. June looked up as he put a plate in front of her. Are you mad at me? She asked suddenly. No. The answer came out too fast. Why would I be mad at you? You look like when you get mad at the measuring tape. He snorted despite himself. I am not mad at the tape. What are you mad at then? He put his own sandwich down and sat. The kitchen chair creaked under his weight. I am not mad, he said again slower. I am thinking about the lady. He took a bite of grilled cheese and chewed using the movement as a stall. The bread crackled between his teeth. The cheese burned a little on his tongue. How do you notice everything? He asked. June shrugged, nibbling the corner of her sandwich. You tell me to pay attention when I use the drill. I just pay attention to other things too. He watched her for a long moment. The rain freckle near her left eye, same place as Lila. The way her feet swung, heels bumping the rung of the chair. She was someone I knew a long time ago, he said at last. Before you. Before your mom. Like a friend. Something like that. Do you not like her anymore? He thought of Aurora's face in the aisle. The way fear and recognition tangled there. the way she had grabbed Ren's shoulder with fingers that shook just a little. "I do not know her anymore," he said. "That is different." June nodded slowly, filing that away somewhere. She finished her sandwich in silence, then slid off the chair. "We still building today?" she asked. "Yeah," he said. "We are still building." Later in the yard, the light began to fade faster. The clouds thickened into one flat lid over the town. Mason hammered joists into place, checking his angles twice, and still catching himself about to drive a nail in wrong. June balanced on the lower branches, holding a beam steady while he worked. "You sure that is safe?" he asked. Heart hitching when she leaned too far. "I have monkey toes," she said. "Grandpa said so." "Grandpa said a lot of things. That you were a disaster with a saw when you were a kid." Mason huffed. He was generous. She giggled. He squinted at his measurements. The numbers did not march in their usual clean lines in his head. They skittered overlaid with other numbers he had not let himself calculate. 9. 9 years. How long had it been since Aurora stepped onto that bus with a canvas bag and a ticket to New York City and said she would call, that they would figure it out? How long since she stopped picking up her phone? Since he drove past her old apartment and found the mailbox empty and the windows dark? 9 years. Ren's age. The tape slipped in his hand. The line he drew wavered. "You okay up there?" June called. "Fine," he said. "Just thinking." He pushed the math away again, the months stacking in the background of his mind like lumber he did not want to sort. By the time they put the tools away, the light had turned a heavy blue. The first cold drops of rain touched the back of his neck as he latched the shed door. That night, after June brushed her teeth and read 2 chapters of her book in bed, she appeared in his workshop doorway, sock feet silent on the concrete. He sat on the floor beside an unfinished dresser drawer, sandpaper in his hand, the fine dust turning his fingers pale. She crossed the room without asking and sank down beside him. "You did not say goodnight," she said. "Sorry." He set the drawer aside. "Good night, Bug." She did not leave. She tucked her knees to her chest chin, resting there looking at the tools on the pegboard. "Are you going to see her again?" she asked. He stared at a clamp, its metal jaws open. "I do not know," he said. "Do you want to?" He exhaled slowly, breath, scraping his lungs on the way out. "That is a harder question," he said. She considered that. The workshop smelled like cedar shavings and old coffee. The single bulb overhead cast soft shadows in the corners. "I liked Ren," June said quietly. "She looked like she stands alone a lot." He turned to look at her. "What do you mean?" "You know when kids are in a group, but one of them is not really in the group. Just near it." June twisted the edge of her sleeve between her fingers. "She looks like that, near the group all the time." Mason felt something shift, a small, painful click under his ribs. "You want her to come back?" he asked. June nodded. "The Skyfort has 2 beds," she said. "It would be nice if they were both used." He reached out and pulled her into his side. She leaned against him without resistance, her head fitting under his chin. Rain began to patter on the workshop roof, soft at first, then more insistent. A low growl of thunder rolled somewhere far off over the ridge. The storm moved closer, steady and patient. June's breathing slowed as she relaxed warm against his shoulder. After a while, she said muffled, "You are doing the staring thing again." "Sorry," he murmured. "You can think," she said, half asleep. "Just do not get lost." He closed his eyes for a moment, feeling the weight of her, the familiar shape of the workshop around them, the grain of wood against his palm where his hand rested on the drawer. When he opened them, the Thunderbird on his wrist caught the light. The ink seemed darker in the dim room. 9 years. A girl who had his jaw lines in Aurora's eyes. A tattoo that was supposed to belong to one story showing up in another. Outside, the rain thickened, drumming on the roof in a rhythm that made it hard not to count. Saturday mornings usually felt simple. Mason liked the routine of the Redwood Falls Farmers Market. Same stalls, same faces, same canvas tents flapping in the mild breeze that came down off the ridge. The baked bread smell mixed with cut herbs and coffee, and the whole square seemed to hum in a way that was not exhausting. He should have known today would not be simple. June walked beside him, swinging the reusable canvas bag like it was a pendulum. She had insisted on drawing a crooked Thunderbird on one side of the bag with a marker. The bird looked surprised instead of fierce, but he had let it stay. "Tomatoes first," he said, "then basil. And then the cinnamon rolls," she added. He squinted at her. "I do not remember agreeing to that." "You will," she said. They stepped into the main row of stalls. The produce vendor he liked had set out boxes of heirloom tomatoes, all mottled red and orange and green, like they had been painted. He reached for one, fingers brushing the smooth, cool skin. A flash of white shirt out of the corner of his eye made him look up. Aurora stood on the other side of the display. She held a tomato in her hand and turned it under the light, examining it with the same focused attention he remembered from her staring at unfinished canvases. Her dark hair was loose today, falling around her shoulders, less sharp than the severe cut at the hardware store. She wore jeans that fit too well to be cheap, and a white shirt with sleeves rolled to her elbows. There was a watch on her wrist that looked like an apology for its own price. She closed her eyes for a second, inhaled, and he could tell from the way her throat moved that she knew he was there before she opened them again. He watched her see him, the slight jerk in her shoulders, the way her fingers tightened around the tomato, the way she set it back very carefully in its box as if anything too abrupt might make a mess she could not clean up here. June tugged his sleeve. "Dad, those ones are weird," she whispered, pointing at the knobbly tomatoes. "In a good way. Go look at the pastries," he said, forcing his voice to stay even. "The stall with the blue tablecloth. Get what you want. Something small." Her eyes lit up. "For you too, for me too." She held out her hand. He put a $10 bill in it. "Do not let them talk you into artisanal kale muffins." "I would never," she said, already backing away. "I am not a monster." She disappeared into the crowd, swallowed by the mix of bodies and tents. Mason turned back to the table. Aurora had moved a few inches down, pretending to be interested in the sweet peppers. Her jaw was tight. "We have to stop meeting in the produce section," he said quietly. She huffed a short breath that might have been a laugh if there had been any humor in it. "You should not be here," she said. "This is my town." "I meant near me." He rested his fingers lightly on the edge of the wooden crate that held the tomatoes. "We need to talk." "There is nothing to talk about." He leaned in just enough that their voices would not carry beyond the stall. "You ran away from me in a hardware store," he said. "Your daughter told me you have the same tattoo I do, the same bird. There is 10 years of talk, Aurora." She flinched at the word daughter. It was so small he might have missed it if he had not been watching for any sign at all. "She talks too much," Aurora said. "Kids do that when they are not carrying the weight of an entire world of secrets." Her eyes flashed. "Careful." He pressed his thumb into the rough grain of the crate, grounding himself. "How old is she?" he asked, even though he already knew. Aurora stared at a point over his shoulder. "You do not get to ask that." He did the math again anyway, each number landing like a hammer blow. "She looks like me," he said. "You know she does." "She looks like herself," Aurora snapped. "And me," he said, not backing off. "She has your eyes and my jaw. She stands like me when she is thinking. She bites her lip like I do. You expect me to pretend I do not see that." "There are lots of people in the world," Aurora said. Her voice was flat now. "Some of them share features. That does not mean anything." "Your daughter described my tattoo," he said. "She knew the feather was broken. That detail was yours, not mine. You told her that. Why would you tell her that if there was nothing here?" Aurora's hand slid off the crate. She folded her arms, visible armor. "Walk away, Mason," she said. "Please." "No. Do not do this here." "Where then?" "At the bottom of the ocean, preferably." He did not smile. "You owe me the truth," he said. "You owe her the truth." Her mouth twisted. "You think you want it," she said. "You think it is simple. It is not." "Is she mine?" he asked, and the words came out raw. "Is Wren my child?" For a second, all the noise of the market thinned. A bee droned near the flowers at the next stall. A kid laughed near the kettle corn stand. Aurora's gaze dropped to the tomatoes. "No," she said finally. The words sat between them, small and brittle. He stared at her. "You are lying," he said. Her eyes snapped back to his. "You do not get to accuse me in public." "What difference does the location make?" "It makes all the difference." Her voice was very quiet now. "You have your life, Mason. Your house, your shop, your daughter. I have mine. We are strangers who buy groceries in the same place. That is all. That is not all." He took a breath. "You disappeared. I thought you were dead for a little while. Then I thought you were just done with me. I made a life out of that. I married. I buried my I am raising a little girl who still cries some nights because her mom is not here to hear about her day. And then I walked down an aisle to buy screws and find out that maybe you gave me another daughter and never told me." "Keep your voice down," she hissed. A woman buying kale glanced over. Mason clamped his jaw shut. Aurora set her shoulder. Aurora set her shoulders. "You do not know what you are asking to dig up," she said. "You do not know what comes with it." "Then explain it," he said. "No," she said. The word trembled. "I will not do this with you. Not like this." She turned the motion abrupt. He moved to block her path without thinking. The tattoo, he said. Why does she know about the tattoo? Something in her face cracked. Just for a heartbeat, a jagged line of pain ran across her expression. Let me go, she said. Not until you tell me why your child has my tattoo in her bedtime stories. Dad. The call came from behind him, sharp and bright and entirely oblivious. Mason turned. June wove through the crowd, both hands occupied with paper bags. One smelled like sugar and cinnamon from 3 stalls away. Beside her, shorter, but walking in the same determined line, was Wren. She also carried a bag that looked suspiciously like pastries. Behind them, a woman in her 60s followed at a more measured pace. Her gray hair was wound into a tight bun. Her posture was upright enough to make a ballet teacher proud. Dad, look, June said. I found Wren, and this is Catherine. She is like Wren's extra grown up. Catherine gave Mason a once-over, brisk and assessing, like she was categorizing him for future reference. Mr. Reed, she said. It was impressive that she already knew his name. I have heard a great deal about your treehouse. You have been promoted, June whispered to him. They know about the fort. Wren looked up at Aurora, eyes shining. Can I go help again? She asked. Please. Aurora's jaw flexed. We have errands, she said. It could be short. Wren rushed on. 1 hour. Less. We started measuring the beams. June said I held them straight. I want to see if we did it right. She spoke in that careful way, but the edges of her words were frayed by excitement. June nodded so hard her ponytail bounced. She was good, she told Aurora. You would not think it by the shoes, but she can climb. Catherine's mouth pressed into a line. Miss Hart, your schedule this afternoon is quite full. Aurora stood there, caught between 3 sets of young eyes and one older one that did not trust this man in front of her. She looked at Mason. For a second, he saw the girl on the studio floor again, sitting cross-legged, apologizing for spilling turpentine on his jeans, laughing, telling him they were just pants. Now there was no laughter, only fear, and something else, a kind of exhausted longing. 1 hour, she said finally. Her voice sounded as if it had passed over gravel. At Mr. Reed's house. Catherine will bring you back at 3. Wren almost dropped her pastry bag. Thank you, she breathed. Aurora caught her sleeve before she could run off. Come here, she said. Wren stepped close. Aurora smoothed a curl back from her forehead. You listen to Catherine and to Mr. Reed, she said. No climbing higher than they say. No wandering. Yes, Mom. Aurora looked at Mason again. Do not let her fall, she said. I do not intend to let anyone fall, he replied. She reached into her bag and took out a small cream-colored card. She hesitated, then held it out to him. On the front in simple black letters it said, Aurora Hart, Hart Foundation. She flipped it and wrote an address from across town, then a time. Tonight, she said, 8 alone. He took the card. Their fingers did not quite touch. Catherine cleared her throat softly. I will bring Miss Wren to your address, Mr. Reed, she said. I would like it written down if you do not mind. He told her the street and number. She repeated it back without needing to write it, the kind of woman who filed details away and kept them sharp. Then June grabbed Wren's hand and tugged. Come on, she said. We have to show you the oak. It is the best climbing tree in the world. We named it Henry. You did, Mason said. I did not agree to Henry. It is a good name for a tree, Wren said gravely. See, June crowed. Mason walked behind them, the canvas bag of vegetables over his shoulder, Aurora's business card between his fingers. Catherine fell into step beside him, as if to make sure he did not quietly become a kidnapper on the short walk back to the truck. At the house, the yard opened up green and a little wild. The oak rose at the far end, its branches thick and inviting, the early skeleton of the treehouse wrapped partway around the trunk. Wren stopped at the foot of the tree. It is bigger than I thought, she said. June spread her arms. It is going to be a castle. I mean Sky Fort. We are still branding. Mason unloaded the boards from the truck while the girls circled the trunk cans grazing the bark. Catherine stood near the back steps, arms crossed, eyes tracking Wren's movements. Okay, he called. Rules. No climbing above the second brace without me. No jumping down from the higher branches. No hammers without me handing them to you. Yes, sir, Wren said. June rolled her eyes. You can just say Mason, she told Wren. Or Dad. He answers to both. Color rushed into Wren's cheeks. She glanced at him uncertain. Mason is fine, he said gently. She smiled, small but real. They spent the next 40 minutes measuring and holding boards and arguing over where the windows should go. Wren took instructions with intense seriousness. When he showed her how to hold a board steady while he drilled into it, she followed every direction like it was a test she wanted to ace. "You do not have to be perfect," he said at one point, when she apologized for letting a board slip half an inch. She blinked up at him. "Why not?" she asked. "Because it is wood," he said. "Not surgery. It bends. We fix it." She seemed to think about that longer than the answer warranted. June drew an outline of the fort in the dirt with a stick. 2 rectangles for beds, a circle for a hatch. Wren knelt beside her, pressing a finger into the lines. "We could put a rope here," she said, "to pull up snacks." "Fort snacks," June said. "Now you are thinking like a professional." When Catherine checked her watch, the protest was immediate. "One more board," June begged. "One more minute," Wren said at the same time. "Time is not a flexible concept," Catherine said, but the edges of her mouth had softened. Mason climbed down from the platform and wiped his palms on his jeans. "We can do more next time," he said. Wren looked up sharply. "There is a next time?" she asked. "If your mom says yes," he said. She held his gaze, and there it was again, that little jolt in his chest. Something in her face so painfully familiar. "I will ask," she said. She hugged June in a quick, fierce squeeze that surprised both of them. Then she stepped back, smoothing her dress with both hands, armor returning. As Catherine led her toward the car, Wren turned once more. "Thank you," she called. "Sold the my soul," for what he asked, for letting me help, and for the treehouse, and for Henry. The way she said it made the yard feel different, like she had named something that had been waiting. He lifted a hand in answer. When they were gone, the yard felt quieter. June stood at the base of the tree looking at the half-built platform. "She is definitely coming back," June said, with the certainty of someone who had already decided. "She likes it here." Mason slid Aurora's card into his pocket. The weight of it sat against his leg as he looked up at the rough lines of the future fort. "We will see," he said. The sky had started to clear. Patches of blue showed through the thinning clouds. Sunlight slipped through the branches, catching for a moment on the ink of the Thunderbird on his wrist as he reached up to touch the lowest beam. Aurora's address sat in Mason's pocket like a stone all afternoon. He felt it whenever he shifted a small rectangle pressing into his thigh, while he rinsed dishes, while he answered a text from a client about a cabinet hinge, while he reminded June to put her sneakers by the door instead of in the middle of the hallway. By 7:30, the sky over Redwood Falls had turned a deepening violet. The earlier clouds had torn apart, leaving streaks of leftover storm stretched thin across the horizon. "Are you going out?" Janine asked, barefoot on the couch, a book splayed open on her knees. "I have to talk to someone about a job," Mason said. It was not exactly a lie. "Cora from next door said she would come sit with you. She will bring popcorn. Try to survive." June tilted her head, evaluating. "Do I have to go to bed on time?" "Yes." "Will you be back before I fall asleep?" He hesitated. Her face shifted, catching it. "I will try," he said. She seemed to accept that. Tell Cora to knock the secret way, she said, not the cop way. What is the cop way? She pounded her fist twice against the arm of the couch. "Like that. It makes my stomach fall out." He filed that away and rapped lightly on the wall in response. "Like this?" he asked. She nodded. "That is better." Cora arrived just after that with a bag of microwave popcorn and a stack of old DVDs. Mason thanked her, kissed the top of June's head, and stepped out into the cooling evening. Aurora's street lay across town in a part he usually only drove through to get to the highway. The houses there sat back from the road, tucked behind stone walls and tall hedges. The numbers on the mailboxes grew more polished as he went. He turned into a long gravel drive flanked by low lights that glowed like lanterns along a path. Branches arched over the lane, filtering what was left of the daylight. The air smelled different here, less of dust and asphalt, more of wet earth and cut grass. The house that rose at the end of the drive did not look like anything else in Redwood Falls. It was mostly glass and dark wood flat roofs, layered in clean lines big enough to look like it had been dropped in from a magazine spread on West Coast architecture. Light spilled out through the tall windows in soft, warm rectangles. He parked where the gravel widened and got out. His boots crunched. Somewhere on the side of the house, water trickled, maybe a landscaped fountain or pond. Crickets pulsed in the bushes. For a second, standing there with his truck behind him and the house in front of him, he considered getting back in and driving away. Then the front door opened. Aurora stood in the doorway, barefoot, wearing jeans and a soft-looking gray sweater pushed up to her elbows. Her hair was loose. A pair of reading glasses hung from a chain against her chest. For the first time since he had seen her again, she looked less like a public version of herself and more like the person he used to know, the one who fell asleep on his couch with charcoal on her cheek. Mason, she said. He walked up the last few steps. You have a doorbell, he said. It was the first thing his mouth offered. You would have heard it, she replied. I was standing right here. She moved aside. He stepped onto cool stone and into air that smelled faintly of citrus and paper and something floral he could not name. The entryway was tall and mostly empty, the ceiling stretching up for 2 stories. A long modern light fixture hung down like a line of tiny moons. To the right, glass looked out over a patio where a low fire pit glowed. To the left, a hallway disappeared into the house. Art hung on the walls. Not the wild, half-finished canvases he remembered from her old studio, but framed pieces curated, balanced. Some he recognized as her work finished and controlled. Others carried names he only dimly knew, the kind that got mentioned in the art section of big newspapers. He wiped his palms on his jeans. So he said, "This way," she said. She led him down the hall, their footsteps muffled by thick woven runners. On one side he glimpsed a living room, with a wide couch facing a low, sleek fireplace. On the other, a dining room with a table long enough to seat 12 empty now chairs tucked in at exact angles. They reached a room lined on 3 walls with books. One wall was almost entirely windows, looking out over the dark shape of the back garden. A desk sat under the window papers stacked in neat piles, a laptop open and asleep. A leather couch and 2 matching chairs sat around a low table where a glass decanter caught the light. Aurora walked to the decanter, uncapped it, and poured amber liquid into 2 short glasses. I did not ask if you wanted one, she said. You look like you might. Mason stepped closer. The shelves smelled faintly of dust and binding glue layered over the cleaner scent of furniture polish. Whiskey in a room like this, he said, taking the glass she offered. You went full cliché. Certain clichés exist for a reason. They both stood for a moment, glasses in hand, neither drinking. Finally, he took a small sip. The whiskey burned down his throat, then settled into warmth. This is not from the grocery store shelf, he said. That is the Foundation's fault, she said. People send things as thank yous. Bottles, tickets, fruit baskets, whatever, says, please keep funding us. He did not answer that. She set her glass down without tasting it and wrapped her arms around herself, fingers tucking into the sleeves of her sweater. Ren is asleep, she said. Top floor, 3rd door on the right. She uses the stars on the ceiling to measure if it is really bedtime. You do not have to worry about her hearing. He felt that note of reassurance land somewhere under his ribs. I have not heard you say her name yet, he said. Aurora's mouth pulled tight. We are not going to dance around this, are we? She said. Probably not, he replied. She drew in a long breath, held it, let it out. Her name is Ren Hart, she said, like reciting a biography she had memorized. She is 9. She was born March 14th at Presbyterian Hospital on the Upper East Side. She likes math and music, hates peas, sleeps with the same stuffed fox she has had since she was 3. She can read at a 10th grade level. She is afraid of deep water. Mason listened, each detail clicking into place. The hospital name stuck in his mind like a thumbtack. And her father, he said. Aurora closed her eyes. He waited. When she opened them, they were wet at the edges. I have to go back, she said quietly. I cannot start from the middle. It will sound like an excuse. It probably is an excuse, but you are not going to understand any of this if I just say yes or no and leave it there. He nodded once. She walked around the couch and lowered herself onto it as if her knees were suddenly unreliable. He sat in the chair across from her. The table between them looked too delicate to hold what she was about to set down. I left here with a suitcase and 3 finished paintings, she said. You know that part. I got a sublet in Brooklyn that had a shower that screamed every time you turned it on, and a view of a brick wall that tried very hard to be a skyline. He remembered that. She had sent him pictures the first couple of weeks. The shower, the wall, the first day at the gallery, her hand shaking slightly in the photo she texted him. She had stopped sending photos long before she stopped answering his calls. I worked 12-hour days, she said. Sometimes more, because I wanted them to forget that my last name matched the one on the Foundation that sponsored half their shows. I wanted them to believe I was there because I was good, not because my father signed their checks. Her mouth hitched at that. I drank too much coffee, forgot to eat, went home to the screaming shower, slept 6 hours repeated. After a while, I started throwing up in the mornings. I thought it was the coffee, or the stress, or the air. She stared past him at a spot somewhere over his shoulder, like she was watching a reel only she could see. One night it was 2 in the morning, and I was in this all-night bodega near my apartment, the kind with buzzing lights and weirdly perfect rows of cereal. I bought a pregnancy test with cash and stuffed it between a bag of chips and some soap so the guy ringing me up would not comment. Mason's grip tightened on his glass. I went back to my building, she went on, but my roommate's boyfriend was passed out on the couch, and I could not face him even being in the same air as what I was about to do. So I used the tiny bathroom in the lobby, the one with the flickering light and the broken lock. I peed on the stick there. The floor was sticky. I remember that more than anything. My shoes sticking. My heart banging so loud I thought I would vibrate out of my own body. Her throat moved. She swallowed hard. It took about 30 seconds for the second line to appear, she said. I sat on that disgusting floor for maybe an hour, holding this plastic thing like it was a bomb. She laughed a brittle, humorless sound. I wanted to call you, she said. God, I wanted to. I took my phone out. I put my thumb on your contact. I almost hit dial so many times I lost count. Then I thought it'd be practical for once. Look at his life, not your fantasy of it. She turned her eyes back to him. So, I looked, she said. I searched your name. I found the hardware shop's website, a local news article about the custom cradle you built for someone's twins, and then I found your social media. You had posted a photo 2 weeks earlier, at that fancy restaurant by the river. You were kneeling by the table holding out a ring to Lila. She was crying. You were looking up at her like she was the first breath you ever managed to take. He remembered that night in a rush. The hum of the river, the clatter of plates, the way Lila's hand had covered her mouth before she said yes. Aurora's absence had been a shadow at the edge of that evening. He had thought of her briefly as he walked home with Lila, then pushed the thought down. You looked happy, Aurora said simply. Not the way you looked with me. With me, you were always half-tuned to the next disaster. With her in that picture, you looked settled. I could see your dad in the background of another photo raising a glass. It hit me that there was a whole universe here that did not include me anymore. A good one. She lifted her hands, then let them drop. I sat there on that gross tile and thought, if I call him now, what am I asking him to do? Leave her. Call off everything. Split himself between two lives. Hate me for it. And maybe he would try. Maybe you would have. You always wanted to do the right thing, but the right thing for who? He opened his mouth, then closed it again. The taste of whiskey lingered with something bitter and metallic under it. I told myself Aurora said that letting you go was the kindest thing I could do, that you deserved to have a simple happiness, and I would just burn it down if I walked back into it with a baby on my hip. Her shoulders hunched. Her fingers gripped the hem of her sweater, as if to keep herself anchored. I am not asking you to agree, she said. I am telling you the story you were not there for. He studied her face. There were lines at the corners of her eyes that had not been there before. One near her mouth that deepened when she pressed her lips together. So, you decided alone, he said. His voice came out low. For both of us. Yes, she said, I did. And for her. Aurora's voice dropped even further. She was an idea then, she said. A blur on a strip of paper. I thought I could carry the fallout. I thought I was the one choosing. Silence settled between them for a moment, heavier than any piece of furniture in the room. What about your father? Mason asked. Hart Sr. Did you tell him? He found out when I was about 6 months along, she said. He called it inconvenient. Then he called his lawyer. Not in that order. Her jaw tightened. There were trusts to consider. Board optics. My image. He said we could handle it quietly. As long as you stayed out of the picture, it was salvageable. Mason felt anger flare hot and clean. Salvageable, he repeated. In his vocabulary, she said, not mine. You listen to him, Mason said. I listened to the part of me that was still a terrified 25-year-old who had never done anything without a safety net, she said. I listened to the part that believed I wrecked everything I touched. Her gaze slid away. I changed my number, she said. I left my old email. I moved. I went to appointments alone. I watched my body change and pretended it was just me and her and a very small circle of people behind closed doors. You could have written, he said, a letter, anything. And said what? She asked softly. Hey, Mason, hope the marriage is great by the way. I am having your kid. Do not worry. I will not ask for anything. Just thought you should know so you can lie awake in 2 different houses instead of 1. Yes, he said, exactly that. She laughed again, a raw sound. You think suffering is always more noble if you share it, she said. I think I had a right to know, he said. Her eyes met his. There was no argument left there, only exhaustion. "You did," she said. "You still do. I am not going to pretend you did not. I made a choice I cannot undo." He set his glass down on the table so carefully it did not clink. Did Lila know he asked the question slipping out before he could stop it? At all? Aurora shook her head. "No, I disappeared from you before she could even hate me in person. She got the cleaner version of me, the ghost." He nodded once slowly. The mention of Lila's name made something twist inside his chest. Grief layered itself over everything else. "My father died when Ren was 6 months old," Aurora said. "Heart attack in his sleep. He left me his chair on the foundation and a maze of obligations. Suddenly it was not just a baby and a career. It was a baby and a career and an entire machine I had to keep running while everyone watched to see if I tripped." She looked down at her hands. "I told myself again that I had done the right thing," she said. "That you had a wife who loved you and a community that held you up. That if I walked back into that with my chaos, I would rip open everything you had managed to build after I left." He let that sink in. The years with Lila, the way she had steadied him after Aurora, the way they had built their little life with the house and the shop, and then June. All of it untainted by this other story because he had never been given the option to know it existed. "You took the choice away from me," he said quietly. "Yes," she replied, "I did." The admission hung there. Hung there honest and ugly. "I have thought about telling you so many times," she said. "After I saw the obituary for your dad. After I saw the fundraiser link when Lila got sick. After she died. I would sit at this very table and write your name on a piece of paper and then throw it away. Every time it felt like I would be dropping a grenade into a house already on fire." She shook her head. "That is melodramatic," she said, "but that is how it felt." Mason sat back slightly. The leather chair creaked. "Why now?" he asked. "If you have been stopping yourself for 9 years, why let any of this slip into the open? Why let your daughter talk about a tattoo that no one else is supposed to have?" Aurora's eyes filled out right now. "Because I did not let it," she said. "She did. She found pictures once, old ones, of us. She saw the tattoo. She would not let it go. I did not tell her your name. I told her there was someone out there with a matching bird who loved building things. She built the rest in her head. I thought I could keep it vague. I underestimated her." Her voice broke on the last word. She cleared her throat, but the crack stayed. "Then she walked into a hardware store and found you," she said. "Found the bird. Found the story standing in the lumber aisle with a kid who looks nothing like her, but holds your hand the way she imagines she would hold it." Mason felt the image land. Ren looking at his wrist. June standing beside him. The Thunderbird in the fluorescent light. He did not realize he was gripping his own wrist until his fingers cramped. Aurora watched that, then glanced away. "I know you have questions that go past this," she said. "About her. About what kind of life she has had. About what I have done with her. And for her. And to her. I will answer them. You deserve that much. She deserves that much." Her lips pressed together. "I also know that nothing I say makes what I did. Okay," she added. "I am not going to ask you to understand. I am just going to sit here and tell you the truth finally, until there is nothing left that belongs only to me." Aurora rubbed her palms against her knees once, like she was drying them, then let them rest there. "She came early," she said. 3 weeks before the due date. There was a storm that night. Thunder so loud it rattled the windows in the apartment. The cab driver yelled at me for not calling earlier. I yelled back in between contractions. We arrived at the hospital angry at each other, and I remember thinking this is a terrible way to meet a person. Mason could picture it. New York rain thick and dirty bouncing off cab hoods. Aurora, with her hair plastered to her cheeks, swearing at a stranger. "The delivery was fast," she went on. "Too fast. Everyone kept saying that. The nurse, the doctor. I blinked and there was blood and light, and then they were holding this red, furious creature over me, and she was screaming at the entire world. She did not cry. She screamed, full throat, like she was offended at the very idea of being taken out of wherever she had been." Aurora's mouth softened. "I thought, of course," she said. "Of course she is loud." She reached for her glass this time and took a small swallow. "She was healthy," she said. 10 fingers, 10 toes, the whole cliché list. I was exhausted and terrified, and I stared at her for a long time and kept thinking I had done something irreversible. "You had," Mason said quietly. She nodded, accepting that. "She was colicky," Aurora said. "For months. She hated lying flat. She hated quiet. She would scream until her face turned the color of a stop sign. The only thing that calmed her was humming, not singing, humming. She touched the base of her throat as if remembering the ache. I would walk around that apartment for hours with her tucked against my shoulder," she said, "humming the same stupid 3 tunes over and over. Some old lullaby my mother used to mumble a hymn from school, and that song you always had stuck in your head when you sanded table legs." Mason blinked. "I did not have songs stuck in my head," he said. "You did," she said. "You hummed under your breath, like you did not even know you were doing it." He looked down at his hands. The memory uncurled vague, but there. Rhythm without words repeated until the work was done. "She would quiet if I hummed," Aurora said. "Her fists would relax. Her breathing would sync with mine. If I stopped, she would start up again, so I barely stopped. For months. My throat felt raw all the time. I learned the hard way not to drink citrus and then hum. It was like swallowing knives." A small smile edged her mouth. "The first time she smiled, really smiled, she was lying on a blanket next to one of my canvases," she said. "I had put her down for 5 minutes so I could clean a brush. I turned around, and she was staring at this big mess of yellow and blue, and then her whole face went bright, like someone had turned a light on behind it. I realized she was capable of joy that did not involve someone bouncing her or humming through their own pain. That was a good day." Mason swallowed against the tightness gathering in his throat. "What was she like?" he asked as she got bigger. Aurora leaned her head back against the couch for a moment, eyes tracking the ceiling. "Hungry," she said, "for everything." Her first word was more. Not mama or milk or any of the sweet things people put on baby showers. More. She would hold out her hands at the park when we had to leave. More. She would slam her fist on the tray when she finished a bowl of mashed peas, which she later decided she hated. More. Every book, every song, every new thing, she wanted more of it. She dropped her gaze back to him. "At 3 she discovered conducting," Aurora said. She stole a wooden spoon from the drawer and stood on the couch and waved her arms around while the radio played. Completely serious. Tiny brow furrowed. I turned the radio off once to answer the phone, and she stopped and looked at me like I had personally ruined the climactic moment of a symphony. He could almost see that. A little girl with dark curls and a wooden spoon commanding invisible violins. "So, I found her a music class," Aurora said. "Little kid stuff. Bang on drums, shake plastic maracas." She tolerated that for exactly 2 sessions, then looked at the instructor and said the sound hurt. She wanted the small violin that sings higher. Her words. Aurora's fingers traced an invisible line along her forearm. "I scraped together money for private lessons," she said. The teacher was this older woman who had taught half the string players in the city at some point. She listened to Wren hum along with a piece and watched her copy, fingering on an invisible fingerboard. After the lesson, she pulled me aside and said very calmly that my child had perfect pitch and I should not waste it. Pride slipped through Aurora's tone for a second before she caught herself. "She took to the violin like she had been waiting for it," Aurora said. "The practicing was messy at first, of course. She screeched. The neighbors banged on the ceiling. But she did not care. She liked the way the bow felt in her hand. She liked the control. She liked that for once her noise was allowed." Mason let his eyes move to the window. The dark outside made their reflections sit faint in the glass. "What about school?" he asked. Aurora's jaw tightened. "That got more complicated," she said. "The foundation people had opinions. They liked the image of the single working mother up to a point. They did not like anything that looked like instability. So we picked a school that would look good on a brochure. Uniforms, Latin mottos, tuition that made me nauseous, even though technically I was the one signing the checks that helped fund their scholarship program." She tipped her head, the movement stiff. "Wren walked into that classroom at 5 with her hair braided, and her shoes shined, and a backpack almost as big as she was," she said. "She came home the first day with a paper crown and 3 new vocabulary words. She also came home a little quieter." "How do you mean?" he asked. She watched the other kids, Aurora said. She noticed who had 2 parents at pickup and who had 1. She noticed who had last names that made teachers stand a little straighter. She noticed who looked at her like she was a curiosity the heart heir whose father was a blank space. Her mouth twisted. I told the school she did not have a father, Aurora said, that he was not in the picture. I said it the way people say someone moved away. Clean, simple, that is how they like things. She rubbed her forehead with 2 fingers. When she was 7, Aurora said they had this family breakfast thing. Muffins and juice in the gym, kids brought their parents, photographers took pictures for the newsletter. I had a board meeting. I tried to reschedule it, I failed, so I sent her with Catherine. Mason remembered the older woman's assessing eyes. Catherine bought her a new hair ribbon, Aurora went on. She took 100 pictures on her phone. She made sure Wren had a plate full of muffins. When I got home that night, Wren was in her room with the ribbon on the floor. Her eyes looked I do not know unfocused, like she was watching something I could not see. I asked how breakfast was. She said the muffins were dry. Aurora's throat moved. Later, when she was brushing her teeth, she asked me without looking up. Aurora said, why some kids had 2 people there, and she had 1.5. Mason frowned. Half he repeated. Catherine, Aurora said. In her mind, I was the 1. Catherine was the half. She said it like she was doing the math. 1.5 still felt like not enough. He felt that land in his chest like a nail. What did you tell her, he asked. I lied, Aurora said, in a very careful way. I told her father was a good man who did not know about her, that he lived far away, that he built things with his hands, that if he knew she existed, he would love her. I told her sometimes adults make choices that disconnect them, and they cannot always fix it, but that it was not about her being unwanted. She looked at her own hands as if she did not quite recognize them. She asked if he was dead, Aurora said. I said no. I could not make myself kill you in the story. I said he was alive, just not in our life. And the tattoo mason said, that came later, Aurora replied. She walked in on me getting dressed one night when I thought she was asleep. She saw the bird. She asked what it was. I told her it was from a long time ago. She asked if he had one too. I said yes. I should have said no. I could not. Her fingers brushed her left shoulder through the sweater, where the matching thunderbird lay inked in her skin. She made me tell the story again and again, Aurora said. About 2 people who drew a bird, and then put it on their bodies to remind themselves to keep flying, even when things got hard. I was trying to give her a myth that was not about abandonment. I think I failed at that. Mason thought of Wren in the hardware store, the way she had recited the detail of the broken feather like it mattered. Did she ask his name, he said. Aurora nodded. I told her, I could not tell her, she said, that it would not be fair. I said she could know there was someone with hands like yours out there, building things, carrying a bird on his skin, and that was all. She decided he lived in the mountains and built cabins for people who got lost in snowstorms. A small line appeared between Aurora's brows. She would draw him sometimes, she said, this faceless man in a flannel shirt with a tool belt and a bird on his wrist. I would find those scraps in her room. Catherine would find them in her lunchbox. Once her teacher sent a note home saying perhaps we could talk about why she was so fixated on men with hammers. Despite everything, Mason almost laughed. It came out as a breath through his nose, sharp and broken. Aurora watched, that the corner of her mouth twitching. They do Father Days at that school, she said. Different name, same idea. Wren always invites Catherine. She insists they call it Important Adult Day instead. The administration adores her. They think it is very progressive. They have no idea that every year Wren comes home with a craft that has only one handprint on it. She is very careful not to cry where anyone can see. The room felt smaller, the lights a little too bright. What about the nightmares, he asked. He did not know why he knew to ask that, but he did. Aurora's shoulders slumped. She has them, she said. Not every night. Enough. She dreams about losing things. People, places. Once she told me she dreamed she was on a train and it kept pulling away from a platform while I stayed there waving. She woke up shaking. She was 5. Mason closed his eyes briefly. When she wakes up, she calls for me, Aurora said. Sometimes for Catherine. Once when she was half asleep, she said, Dad. Just that. Like the word slipped out from somewhere she did not know she had. I held her and pretended I did not hear it. Then I went to the bathroom and threw up. The clock on the desk ticked softly. Outside, a branch brushed against the window with a faint scrape. How is she with other kids, he asked. Complicated, Aurora said. She is polite. Adults love her. Teachers write things like, a pleasure to have in class, and remarkably insightful for her age. Children her age either cling to her or keep their distance. Money does that. Her last name does that. Kids are not blind. They hear their parents talk about the Heart Foundation and draw conclusions. She exhaled. She has friends, Aurora said. I do not want you to think she is some Victorian orphan in a tower. She goes to birthday parties and rolls her eyes at cartoons and hides candy under her pillow. But there is a line around her, a boundary. She lets very few people cross it. Mason thought of the way she had taken June's hand in the yard and run toward the oak tree. No hesitation, no calculation. She crossed it with June, he said. Aurora nodded slowly. Yes, she said. She came home that day and did not stop talking for an hour. About the tree, about the boards, about the way your yard felt. She said June did not care what shoes she wore. She said your house smelled like real wood and grilled cheese and that she liked it. Silence settled again. This time it felt different, less like a wall, more like a field after harvest open raw. Mason leaned forward, forearms on his knees. His glass sat untouched on the table between them. I missed all of that, he said. He did not raise his voice. He did not need to. Her first night screaming, her first smile at a painting, her first more, her first day of school, the first nightmare, the first time she picked up a violin and did not want to put it down. I was here measuring kitchen cabinets and painting a nursery for June, and thinking my life had taken all the turns it was going to take. Aurora watched him. There was no defense in her eyes now. I am sorry, she said. The words were plain, no ornaments. I know, he said. He sat back, letting his head tip against the chair for a second, looking up at the ceiling. The light fixture above them was simple, a circle of warm illumination. When he looked at Aurora again, his voice was steady. I want to know her, he said. Not as a story, not as some ghost with my jawline walking around your house while I pretend my responsibility ends at my property line. I want to know who she is when she is being annoying and brilliant and tired and stubborn. I want to hear her talk about whatever book she's reading this week. I want to hear her play. Aurora closed her eyes. Baby chores. When she opened them, tears had slipped free and left tracks down her cheeks. I was afraid you would say that, she said. He almost smiled. You knew I would. Yes, she admitted. He leaned forward again. You kept her from me, he said. You cannot keep me from her now. I am not asking to yank her out of her life. I am asking to be in it. Somehow. We can figure out the shape later, but I am not standing in a hardware store aisle watching her walk away again without fighting. Aurora pressed her lips together so tightly the color left them. Her hands clasped and unclasped in her lap. She will not understand at first, she said. She has built this idea of you, this half fairy tale. If we tell her the truth, she will have to rearrange the whole map in her head. Kids rearrange, Mason said. They do it all the time when grown-ups mess up. She will have questions. I will answer them. I will sit in the mess with her. Aurora studied him, searching for something, maybe the edge of his resolve. She did not find it. She asks about you more lately, she said almost to herself. Ever since the hardware store. She thinks she is being subtle. She is not. Mason let that settle into the space between them. Then it is time, he said quietly. Aurora looked toward the window. In the glass, their reflections sat side by side, dim and distorted. She will want to know why I did not tell you, she said. Why I made her grow up with a missing piece. I do not know how to answer that in a way that does not make me smaller in her eyes. You tell her what you told me, he said. And then you sit with whatever she does with it. I will sit there too. She was silent for a long time. I am so tired of holding this alone, she said finally. You are not alone, he replied. She let out a long breath that sounded like something giving way. Then we will figure it out, she said. For her, and for June. They are already halfway to each other. The clock ticked on, marking off bits of the night as they began the slow work of pulling 9 years of secrets into the open. The change did not happen all at once. It arrived in small increments like the way sawdust collected in the corners of Mason's workshop. Hardly noticeable at first, then suddenly it was everywhere. 3 afternoons after he sat in Aurora's study, Catherine's sedan rolled to a stop at the curb in front of his house. The engine ticked as it cooled. Wren pressed both hands to the window before the lock clicked. Catherine stepped out first, smoothing invisible wrinkles from her skirt. She walked around the car and opened the back door as if Wren were fragile cargo. Thank you for having her, she said. Her tone made it clear this was not entirely her idea. We have lumber that needs holding, Mason said. Seemed like a 2-kid job. Wren hopped down from the car. Her shoes were less shiny today, plain canvas sneakers instead of patent leather. She clutched a slim violin case in one hand, a backpack in the other. You brought the whole orchestra, Mason said, nodding at the case. It has to stay with me, she said. My teacher says instruments are like cats. They decide who they belong to. He swallowed a smile. We will find it a quiet corner inside. June exploded out of the front door before anyone could say more. You are here, she yelled. Come on, Henry, missed you. You named the tree, Wren said, caught between confusion and delight. Obviously, June replied. He told me it was lonely. We are fixing that. Wren glanced at Catherine. The older woman sighed, long suffering. 1 hour, she reminded Mason. Perhaps 90 minutes if we stretch the definition of an hour. We can live with that, he said. Wren followed June into the yard. The oak stood dwarfed by the wide Hart driveway in Mason's memory now, but here in his own space, it still felt enormous. The partial framework of the treehouse wrapped around the trunk like ribs. Today we get the floor right, June announced. Last time we only had pretend floor. Today we go from pretend to real, Mason agreed. He assigned tasks. June fetched the level and the extra nails. Wren took a position at the base of the ladder, ready to hand up tools and boards. You are the ground crew, he told her. She straightened. That sounds important. It is, he said. Nothing stays up if the ground crew messes up. She nodded, taking that in, eyes earnest. As he worked, their voices drifted up. What is it like at your school? June asked. Do you get in trouble for talking? We are discouraged from unnecessary chatter, Wren said. That sounds terrible. We are allowed to debate. Do you ever get to climb things? Only in gym, Wren said. Inside. With mats. That also sounds terrible, June declared. They argued amiably over paint colors and window placement. At one point, Mason glanced down and saw Wren patting the trunk of the oak. You are doing a very good job, Henry, she whispered. By the time Catherine called out the first warning, that it was almost time, there were faint streaks of sawdust on Wren's sneakers. A smear of dirt had found its way onto her knee. She noticed it while wiping her hands on a towel and frowned. I am filthy, she announced, scandalized and fascinated. That is how you know you actually did something, June said. Catherine appeared at the bottom of the yard, watching with folded arms. Miss Wren, she called, we should be leaving. Wren glanced once at the half-finished platform, then at Mason. Can we come again? She asked. If my mother says yes. If your mother says yes, he said, I can find more boards that need holding. She smiled, quick and bright, then schooled her face back into something more composed as she joined Catherine. From the kitchen window later, Mason watched Catherine lean down to say something to Wren as they reached the car. Wren listened solemnly, then looked back at the tree, lifting 2 fingers in a small salute. He raised his own hand in return. The next visit, Aurora dropped her off. She stayed in the car engine, idling, sunglasses on. Wren climbed out with less ceremony this time, already craning her neck toward the oak. June grabbed her wrist, and they vanished into the yard, their voices overlapping. Aurora did not get out, but she rolled the window down as Mason stepped closer. You all right out there? He asked. I am sitting in a car watching my daughter run toward power tools, she said. Define all right. My tools, my rules, he said. She will come back with the same number of limbs she arrived with. That is a low bar, Aurora replied. He rested his hand lightly on the car door. She is good here, he said. You can come in. Or go do whatever people with foundations do on Friday afternoons. Her mouth curved. I have emails, she said. If I go home, I will answer them. If I sit here, I will stare at my inbox and answer them in my head. I have not decided which is worse. He pointed at the porch. The chair up there has your name on it, he said. There is coffee that tastes like wood smoke. You can sit where you can see the tree. No inbox. She hesitated, then turned the key to cut the engine. Catherine arrived earlier than usual that day, carrying a stack of documents for Aurora to sign. Mason made coffee and pretended not to listen to the low murmur of their voices on the porch while he worked with the girls. You have dirt on your face, June informed Wren. So do you, Wren said. That means it is working. Wren paused, then deliberately wiped the back of her hand along her cheek, adding another streak. There, she said. Now it is symmetrical. When Catherine finally called time, both girls groaned in tandem. It sounded like one complaint split into 2 bodies. You can negotiate with your mother, Catherine said. Not with me. Shoes Miss Wren. You have splinters to consider. They trailed back to the porch. Aurora watched them come, eyes moving from Wren's dusty sneakers to the smudge on her cheek to the grin she was not quite trying to hide. You have dirt everywhere, Aurora said. It is a good sign, Mason offered. It means we did actual work, June said. Aurora looked from her daughter to June, then to Mason. There was a softness there he had not seen on her face in years. "Thank you," she said quietly. The third time Ren came over, she tripped. It happened fast. One moment she was climbing the lower rungs of the ladder, following June's shouted directions. The next, the sole of her sneaker slipped on a dusty rung. Her foot shot out. Her shin banged against the wood, and she slid down a short, undignified distance. Mason was close enough to catch her under the arms before she hit the ground. "You all right?" he asked. Her breath came in a sharp gulp. She looked down at her leg. A red smear was already rising where skin had scraped against the ladder. "Oh," she said. Then belatedly her eyes filled. "I am bleeding," she informed him as if he could not see it. "Yes," he said. "That is what happens when skin loses an argument with wood." He sat her on the grass and knelt beside her. "It stings," she said. "It is supposed to," he replied. "Means your body is paying attention." He went inside, grabbed the battered first aid kit from the bathroom, and came back. June hovered, hand over her mouth. "Does it hurt bad?" June asked. "It is not terrible," Ren said, voice thin. Mason cleaned the scrape with water. She flinched at the first touch, then clenched her jaw. "You can yell if you want," he said. "The neighbors will think I am terrible, but your leg will feel the same." Her mouth twitched. "I would prefer not to yell," she said. "Suit yourself." He patted the skin dry and pressed a bandage over the worst of it. Her knee looked ridiculous with a cartoon dinosaur plastered across it, but she relaxed once the raw air no longer hit it directly. "There," he said. "You survive." She frowned at the bandage. "I have never had a dinosaur on my leg before." First time for everything he said. June crouched next to her. "You are officially part of the crew now," she said. "Everyone bleeds on the fort at some point." "That seems inefficient," Ren replied, but there was a thread of pride under the words. After that, the fear in Catherine's eyes edged back a fraction. She still watched the ladder like it was a personal enemy, but she no longer stiffened every time Ren reached for the next rung. "Mr. Reed," she said one late afternoon, as the girls sprawled on the grass drawing plans for an imaginary second level, "I will be 5 minutes down the street, picking up dry cleaning. I will come right back." He caught what she was really asking. "I will keep an eye on them," he said. "You have my number." She studied his face, then nodded. "I know," she said. The first time Ren stayed for dinner, it felt almost accidental. The light lingered long. The girls lost track of time. Mason realized it was nearly 7 when June's stomach growled loud enough to startle a passing bird. "Spaghetti," he announced. "Anyone who wants to eat helps." In the kitchen, Ren stood at the counter holding a handful of basil leaves like they were something rare. "You just ripped them," he said. "With my hands," she asked. "With your hands?" She tore one leaf carefully, taking twice as long as June did to strip a whole stem. The kitchen filled with the smell of garlic, tomato, and fresh herbs. When he handed her a plate, he noticed she hesitated for half a second before taking it, like she was recalibrating to the idea of a meal that did not come from a caterer or a restaurant order. Halfway through dinner, her shoulders dropped a notch. She laughed at something June said about a teacher who always wore the same tie. It was a clear, bright sound, unself-conscious. Later, as he rinsed plates at the sink, his phone buzzed on the counter. A text from Aurora. "How is she?" He glanced toward the living room. Ren and June lay on their stomachs, heads bent together over a board game. The television played quietly in the background, muted cartoons flickering color across the walls. He typed back, "Eating too much spaghetti. Beat us all at a game she just learned. Knee has a dinosaur bandage, but she is fine." A pause. Then, "A dinosaur." He sent a photo of the bandage zoomed in on the ridiculous cartoon face. 3 dots appeared on the screen, vanished, reappeared. "Thank you" came finally. He set the phone down, wiped his hands, and leaned against the counter. One evening, Aurora came to pick Ren up herself. She stepped into the living room, stopping just inside the doorway. June and Ren lay under a hastily constructed blanket tent flashlight propped between them. They were whispering fiercely about something involving dragons and portals. The tent sagged on one side, then held. "They did that by themselves," Mason said quietly. Aurora nodded. Her eyes shone in the dim. "Time to go, Ren," she said. Ren crawled out, hair mussed, cheeks flushed. "Do I have to?" she asked. "Tonight, yes," Aurora said. "You have school in the morning." Ren turned and hugged June. This time there was no hesitation, no glance at the adults for approval. "Tomorrow," June said into her shoulder. "Tomorrow," Ren agreed. After they left, the house felt bigger and emptier for a few minutes. June wandered into the kitchen, toes dragging. "I wish she could just live here and go there sometimes," June said. "Go where sometimes?" he asked. "To her big house," June said. "For fancy stuff. Then come back for real stuff." He almost told her it was not that simple. Instead, he reached over and rubbed her back. She likes being here, he said. I know, June replied. We are good at forts. That night, Ren slept over for the first time. Aurora stood on the porch, hand on the doorframe. Call me if she has a nightmare, she said. She gets them. She will not tell you when she does, so you will have to guess. We will manage, he said. In the small hours, Mason woke to the sound of quick footsteps in the hallway and the creak of the spare bedroom door. He rolled out of bed, heart already speeding. By the time he reached the doorway, June was sitting on the edge of the mattress where Ren lay. The flashlight on the nightstand threw a weak circle of light against the ceiling. It is just rain, June was saying. It is not a train. You are not going anywhere. Ren's breathing was ragged, her fingers twisted in the blanket. It sounded like tracks, she whispered. There are no tracks here, June said. There is only Henry. He would not let a train in the yard. He hates loud things. Right, Dad? She looked up, then spotting Mason in the doorway. He stepped in the floorboard under his heel, groaning. It is just rain, he said, and a little wind. The house has heard worse. Ren scrubbed at her eyes with the heel of her hand. I am fine, she said, voice shaky. It is okay not to be fine, he replied. Do you want the door open or closed? Open, she said. Done. June lay down on top of the blankets beside her. She reached over and found Ren's hand. Go back to sleep, June said. We have fort work tomorrow. We do not have to work, Ren murmured, eyelids drooping. We could just sit up there and do nothing. Doing nothing is also work, June said. It is rest work. Mason stood in the doorway, watching their fingers stay linked as their breathing gradually evened out. The Thunderbird on his wrist itched under the skin. He resisted the urge to scratch it and instead leaned his shoulder against the frame. In the glow from the hall, with the sound of the rain steady on the roof, and two small hands clasped between pillows, the house felt full, in a way it had not in a long time. The weeks that followed settled into a strange kind of rhythm. On Mason's fridge, two calendars hung side by side. One was the school's, dotted with June's field trips and picture days. The other was blank when he tacked it up. It filled fast with penciled notes in two handwritings: Ren violin, Aurora board meeting, gallery opening, sleepover at Mason's. Most of the notes circled the same thing: treehouse. On a Wednesday afternoon, Mason picked the girls up from school. June burst out of the building with her backpack half unzipped, papers flapping. Ren followed, more contained, her violin case neat against her side, uniform collar still crisp. They climbed into the truck, June claiming the passenger seat, Ren sliding in behind her. You will wrinkle your music, Ren told June, eyeing the chaos in her backpack. You will wrinkle your brain, June said. It is fine. I know which mess is important. Mason adjusted the rearview mirror. In it, for a second, their faces lined up. June's freckles and Lila's eyes. Ren's gray gaze and his own jaw. The resemblance struck him so sharply he had to look away. At a red light, June leaned back over the seat, studying her friend. You know you look like my dad, right? She said. June, Mason said. What, she asked. Ren blinked. No, I do not, she said. Kind of, June insisted. The way your mouth does that thing when you are thinking, and the way you get mad at rulers. I do not get mad at rulers, Ren said, offended. You glare at them, June said. Same as him. Mason watched Ren's reflection. He saw her glance at his profile, quick and uncertain. I think I look like my mother, Ren said. You do, June said. In the eyes. I am just saying there is a Veep. Do not mind her, Mason said lightly. She is in a detective phase. I am not, June said. I am in a noticing phase. The light changed. He pressed the gas. From the back seat, Ren asked very quietly, Do you think I look like you? He did not answer immediately. The windshield offered him the safe blur of the road. The oak trees along the street flickered past. I think you look like you, he said. The rest is just pieces that came along for the ride. She seemed to accept that on the surface. He could feel the question still moving under it. That night after Ren went home, June sprawled on the living room rug coloring. She chose a blue pencil, then a black one, then set both aside and picked up green. Ren does that thing you do, she said. What thing, he asked from the couch where he sat sorting receipts. She asks a question, June said. Then she pretends she did not ask it. Then she waits to see what happens anyway. That is not my thing, he said. It is, she replied. He watched her shade in the sky over a crooked version of the treehouse. Is it bad, she asked without looking up. What he said, wanting to know things she said, even when grown-ups do not want you to. No, he said, it is not bad. It can be hard, but not bad. She nodded once hard, as if she had been waiting for that permission. On Aurora's side of town, the questions gathered their own weight. One evening, Wren sat at the kitchen island in the Hart House, legs dangling off the stool. Her math homework lay open, a neat column of fractions all solved correctly. Her pencil rested on the edge of the page. Aurora stirred something in a pan, the smell of garlic and lemon filling the kitchen. The room looked like the cover of a magazine spread. The stove gleamed. The marble counter held a single bowl of oranges. Mom, Wren said. Aurora answered, take star. Stasias gumidis stars. Kazi boshanaum. These terts ding nine. That's how durs. How long does it take to build a deck? Wren asked. Aurora put the spoon down. I suspect that depends on the deck, she said. And who is building it? If Mason builds it, Wren clarified. If he had help. Aurora felt the name land between them. They have been at that treehouse for weeks, Wren said. At this point, it is basically a deck in the sky. How long until it is not just a platform? You are eager, Aurora said. Stacey. I like it there, Wren said. Bedaply. Aurora watched her daughter's face. Wren's hair was damp from a shower, curls tamed back from her forehead with a headband. There was a faint mark on her knee where the dinosaur bandage had been. You like June? Aurora said. Yes, Wren replied. And the house. And the tree, Aurora added. And the way it smells, Wren said. It smells like something real. Like a story that is not finished. Aurora swallowed. Does it smell like him? Wren asked. From before. Aurora turned back to the stove. The sauce had started to simmer too hard. Who? She asked, buying herself seconds. The man you told me about, Wren said. The one with the bird. The one who builds things. Aurora lowered the heat. Mason has a treehouse, Wren continued. He has a bird on his skin. He builds things with his hands. He has a house that smells like that. Were you telling me about him the whole time? The question was more pointed than anything she had asked before. The gap between fairy tale and fact had narrowed. Aurora gripped the handle of the pan. We will talk about that soon, she said. You always say that, Wren replied. There was no anger in her voice, only quiet observation. Soon is always later. It never seems to be now. Later that week, Aurora texted Mason. Coffee. He stared at the screen in his truck outside the lumberyard. There was a knot of tension between his shoulders that had not relaxed in days. He replied, Where? She sent the name of a small cafe on the edge of downtown, the one with brick walls and a chalkboard menu that changed only in minor ways. He walked in 10 minutes later. She was already at a table near the window, hands wrapped around a mug. Her hair was pulled back. She wore a simple black dress and looked as if she had slept less than she admitted. He ordered from the counter and joined her. How is the foundation? He asked. Full of people who like to talk in circles, she said. We are not here about them. No, he agreed. She watched the street for a moment. 2 teenagers rode past on bikes. A dog tried to drag its owner into the bakery next door. She is asking more, Aurora said. Born. Wren, he said. Yes, she replied. She has moved from hypotheticals to very specific scenarios. She is too smart for the version of the story where everything is vague. June too, he said, in her own way. Aurora looked at him. What has June said? She asked. That Wren looks like me, he said. That we do the same thinking face. That it is weird. Aurora closed her eyes briefly. She will not stay on the surface forever, Mason went on. She will dig. They both will. Aurora opened her eyes. There was a weariness there that came from something deeper than lack of sleep. I am running out of ways to redirect, she said. Every answer I give just opens 3 more doors. Then we stop redirecting, he said. We give them the real map. Her laugh was a short exhale. You make it sound simple, she said. It will not be, he said, but it will be true. He took a sip of coffee. It was too hot and bitter, but he barely tasted it. How do we do it? Aurora asked. How do you picture this going? In a place that feels safe, he said. Not your big glass fish bowl, not my workshop with tools everywhere. Maybe my living room, couch floor, something soft. She nodded slowly. No, Catherine, he added. No other adults, just us and them. Agreed, she said. We start with June, he said. I tell her I found out something important about Wren, that I did not know before, that it changes some things, but not the parts that matter most to her. He thought about June's face lately, the way she kept watching the adults putting things together faster than he could hide them. I tell her Wren is her sister, he said. The word still scraped on its way out in a good way. Aurora's fingers tightened around her mug. And Wren, she asked, what do you say to her? You tell her the man in your story has a name, he said, that he is not just an idea in the mountains, that he is the man she has been building a fort with, that he is her father. Aurora swallowed. Just like that, she said. He gave a small, sad smile. There is no version that will not hurt, he said. There is only honest and less honest. She looked down at the coffee. She will ask why I did not tell her sooner, Aurora said. Why I made her wait 9 years to meet you. Yes, he said. She will ask why I did not tell you, Aurora added. Yes, he repeated. Aurora sat with that. The cafe's low chatter filled the spaces between their words. A barista laughed at something a customer said. Someone dropped a spoon. What do I say, she asked. The truth, he said. That you were scared. That you thought you were protecting everyone. That you were wrong about some of it. That you were trying to do better now. She let out a breath that sounded shaky. You make it sound like I will not break her, she said. You will bend her, he said. So will I. Life does that, but she is not glass. She studied his face for a long moment. You believe that, she said. I have to, he answered. They drank their coffee, each lost in thought. When Aurora asked eventually, soon, he said. Her mouth twisted. You and your soon, she said. He caught the echo of Wren's complaint and gave a rueful nod. Saturday, he said. You bring her over after lunch. I will have June there. We sit them down and we talk. Aurora flinched as if the date were a physical thing hitting her. This Saturday, she said. Waiting will not make us any readier, he said. It will just give us more time to imagine every way it can go wrong. She turned her mug slowly in her hands. Saturday, she repeated. They let the word rest between them. Outside, a pickup truck rattled past. A dog barked twice, then quieted. How is June with all this, Aurora asked. She wants a sister, he said. She has said that for years. She asked me to build a second bed in the treehouse before she even met Wren. She will be shocked. She will be happy. She will also have a lot of questions about why we kept this from her. Sounds familiar, Aurora said dryly. He did not disagree. They paid and stepped out into the street. The air smelled like rain again, even though the sky was clear. In Redwood Falls, storms sometimes announced themselves long before they arrived. By the time Saturday came, the house felt different. Mason vacuumed the living room, as if clean carpet would somehow cushion what they were about to say. He fluffed the couch pillows, then sat on them, flattening them again. June watched him from the doorway. You are being weird, she observed. He glanced up. I am cleaning, he said. You only clean like that when something is happening, she said. He thought about denying it, then shook his head. We are having people over, he said. That counts as something. She studied him, eyes narrowing, then shrugged. I am making lemonade, she announced. If I do it, we do not run out. When adults do it, there is never enough sugar. Incredible slander, he said, but he let her go. He checked the time more often than necessary. His wrist felt heavy, even without a watch. The Thunderbird sat quiet and dark against his skin wings spread. Out back, the treehouse waited. The platform was solid now, the railing in place. 2 mattress pads lay side by side in the corner, covered in mismatched sheets. Above them, June and Wren had taped drawings to the walls. Some were of trees, some were of birds. In one, a bird with outstretched wings flew between 2 smaller birds. All 3 had one feather drawn a little crooked. Aurora's car pulled up to the curb right on time. From the front window, Mason watched it stop, watched the brake lights glow, watched them go dark. His palms were damp. He wiped them on his jeans and told his heart to ease up. June stood beside him, her nose barely clearing the sill. Why are you hovering? She asked. Just making sure they find the house, he said. They have been here like 100 times, she replied. That is true. Are you nervous? She asked. He swallowed. A little, he said. Why, she pressed. You will see, he said before he could stop himself. She turned at that, brows pulling together. That sounds like when teachers say we will talk about it later, she said. I do not like it. Today later is actually soon, he said. She studied his face a beat longer, then dropped it. The doorbell rang. June ran to answer it. The secret knock rule did not apply to doorbells. Mason followed more slowly. Aurora stood on the porch, one hand on Wren's shoulder. Wren clutched a small tote bag. Both of them had that slightly overdressed look that money made normal. Hi, June said, already reaching for Wren's hand. We have lemonade. Hi, Wren said. I brought a book, in case. In case of what June asked. In case there was waiting, Wren said. There will be 0 waiting, June declared. Come see what we did to the inside of the fort. She tugged Wren down the hall without giving any adult time to answer. Aurora stepped inside after them. She had left off the blazer. Her blouse was simple sleeves rolled to the elbow. Her hair was pulled back at the nape of her neck. There was a tightness around her eyes that makeup could not smooth. "Hi," Mason said. "Hi," she echoed. They stood in the entryway for a breath, listening to the distant sound of girls in the yard. A screen door creaked and slapped. June's voice floated in, animated and bright. Wren's followed higher, threaded with a laugh. "Kitchen," Mason said. "So we do not block the escape route." She huffed under her breath. Comforting. They went into the kitchen. The pitcher of lemonade June had made sat on the counter, sugar-fogged at the bottom. 2 glasses had already been used, faint lip marks on the rims from tasting. Mason pulled a hand towel off the back of a chair and twisted it between his fingers. "You do know I can call this off," Aurora said quietly. "You can too. We can decide this was all a terrible idea." He shook his head. "It is already happening," he said. "They already know something is strange. Calling it off just stretches the strange out." She nodded, throat tight. "Do I look like I am about to ruin our children?" she asked. "You look like you are about to jump off a cliff," he said. "So do I." "At least we picked the same cliff," she replied. He almost smiled. They did not have long to sit in that thin attempt at humor. The back door slammed open, and 2 pairs of feet thudded down the hallway. "Can we drink outside?" June asked, blowing into the room. "We are thirsty. It is 1,000,000 degrees. "It is 72, Mason said. Same thing she said. "Come in here for a second," he said. "Both of you." Something in his voice made June pause. Wren paused because June did. They exchanged a quick glance, then stepped into the kitchen. Aurora straightened. What June asked slowly. Mason gestured toward the living room. "Let us sit," he said. "I do not like this," June said. "We will like it," Wren whispered, almost as if she were trying to convince herself. They all moved to the living room. The couch sat along one wall. Mason had cleared the coffee table and pushed it a little aside so there would be space on the floor, too. Light came in through the front window, warm on the rug. June plopped onto the couch, arms folded. Wren sat beside her, back straight, hands knotted together in her lap. Aurora lowered herself into the armchair opposite. Mason sank down on the rug close enough to look both girls in the eye. His heart thudded. He felt the beat in his throat. "Okay," June said. "Now all the adults are sitting. This is never good news." "Not bad news," Mason said quickly. "Just big news." "I do not like big either," she said. He rubbed his palms on his knees. "June," he said, "you know how you have always said you wished you had a sister." She blinked. Caution flashed in her eyes. "Yes," she said. "Because brothers are too loud. Statistically." He nodded. "Right. And I said it would be nice," she went on, "but that is not how life works." He took a breath. "The thing is," he said, "life sometimes surprises us." "I knew you were going to say that," she muttered. He leaned forward. "You wanted a sister," he said. "You already have one." Silence fell so hard it had a sound. June stared at him. Her mouth opened, nothing came out. Wren's fingers tensed, knuckles whitening. What June said finally, her voice was almost a squeak. "No, I do not." "Yes," he said softly, "you do." She looked left, then right, as if another girl might materialize from behind the couch. "Is this a joke?" she asked. "Because it is a very bad one." "It is not a joke," Mason said. She looked at Wren then, as if the answer might be written on her friend's face. "No," she said. "That is my friend. That is Wren. She has a different mom." "You can have different moms," he said, "and the same dad." The room drew breath and held it. Wren sat so still it was as if she had turned to glass. Her eyes went wide, then wider. June's gaze jerked back to her father. "What are you saying?" she asked. "Explain it like a person, not like a weird fortune cookie." He glanced at Aurora. She inhaled, then leaned forward, elbows on her knees. "Wren," she said, "do you remember the stories I told you at night? About the man who builds things?" Wren's head turned slowly. "Yes," she whispered. "The one with the bird." Aurora nodded once. "The man in that story is not pretend," Aurora said. "He is real. He has always been real." Wren's eyes shone. "I know," she said. "I told you. I knew he was real." Aurora's voice trembled. "I did not tell you his name," she said, "or where he was. I told you he was far away, that he did not know about you." "He did not," Mason said quietly, "until now." Wren's head turned to him. Her gaze dropped, without needing to be told, to his wrist. His sleeve had ridden up again. The ink of the Thunderbird lay there solid and dark. Her hand moved of its own accord, reaching toward it, then stopping halfway as if she were afraid the bird would vanish if she touched it. "Wren and Aurora," said voice soft, "the man I told you about is Mason, right here, in this room." The air seemed to thicken. Wren did not look away from his wrist. You mean, she said, barely audible, he is the one? Yes, Aurora said, he is the one. And he is my dad, Ren asked. Not just in the story, in real life. Mason's vision blurred at the edges. He blinked it clear. Yes, he said. I am your guide, your dad. The word came out rough. It still felt new on his tongue in relation to her, shaped by equal parts joy and grief. There was a heartbeat of stillness. Then Ren launched off the couch. For a moment he thought she might run away. She ran toward him instead. She hit his chest hard enough to rock him back. Her arms went around his neck, thin and strong. He caught her on instinct, one arm under her back, the other across her shoulders, anchoring her. She smelled like soap and grass and the faint resin of the oak. You are real, she gasped into his shirt. You are real. You are real. He could not speak past the lump in his throat. He held her tighter. I knew it, she said between sobs that had started without her permission. I knew when I saw the bird. You were him. I tried not to say it in case I was wrong. I did not want to break the story. I knew. Her tears soaked through the fabric. His own slipped hot down his face into her hair. Behind her on the couch, June had gone very quiet. When he looked up, she was crying, 2 eyes huge, cheeks wet. So, she said, voice wobbling, she is my sister, for real. Aurora nodded, watching her with a raw, open expression. For real, she said. June made a sound that was half laugh, half sob. She slid off the couch and scooted across the rug, dropping to her knees beside them. I told you I wanted a sister, she said. I said it so many times. Nobody listened. Now you listened. He freed one arm and reached for her. She pressed in close, one side of her face against his shoulder, the other against Ren's arm. They were both shaking. He wrapped his arms around both of them, one hand fanned over June's back, the other steady on Ren's spine. He could feel their hearts fast and frantic against him. Aurora rose from the chair and crossed the small space between them. For a second she hovered, unsure where to fit. Then she lowered herself to the floor skirts, pooling, and slid an arm around Ren's shoulders, her other hand landing on June's hair. It was clumsy. Knees bumped. Someone's elbow dug into someone else's side. The 4 of them ended up in a knot on the rug, leaning into and over and around each other. Ren hiccuped against Mason's chest. Can I call you Dad? She asked, words muffled. Or is it too soon? Or is that too much? I can wait if you want. I have waited forever already, so I can wait more. He closed his eyes for a second, feeling that land. You can call me Dad if you want, he said. You do not have to wait. Okay, she whispered. Okay, Dad. The simple weight of the word from her mouth almost drove him back to the floor. June pulled back just enough to look at him. Did you know before she asked? About her. Did you know and not tell me? No, he said. I did not know about Ren until the day at the hardware store. I found out then. Your mom did not know either. None of us did. Only Aurora. June turned her head. Her gaze landed on Aurora. You knew the whole time, she said. Aurora's hand, still resting on Ren's shoulder, tightened. Yes, she said. Her voice was barely there. I did. Why did you not say anything? June asked. Because I was scared, and I thought I was doing the right thing, Aurora said. I thought I was protecting people. I was wrong. I am very sorry. June held her eyes for a long moment. There was anger there, and confusion, and also something that looked like wary understanding, the kind children grow too early when adults bend the world around them. This is a very stupid thing to lie about, June said. Aurora gave a short, choked laugh. You are absolutely right, she said. It was. Are you going to keep lying? June asked. No, Aurora said. Not anymore. June seemed to weigh that, then nodded once sharp. Okay, she said. Good. She turned back to Ren, wiping her own cheeks with the heel of her hand. We are sisters, she said, testing the word. Ren sniffed. Yes, she said. We are. June's face split into a wide, wet grin. I am older, she said. You have to listen to me sometimes. You are only older by months, Ren protested. Still counts, June said. Mason let their bickering wash over him, the familiar tone slipping over new words. His knees ached from the floor. His back protested the hunched position. He did not move. Aurora sat very still beside him, her shoulder touching his, now, her eyes shining and distant. Thank you, she murmured, so low he almost did not catch it. For what he asked. For being here, she said. For not walking out when I finally opened my mouth. He looked at Ren, at June, at the way their fingers were now knotted together in some complicated handshake. Only they understood. I am not going anywhere, he said. The room held them, walls and windows and faded rug binding this new shape of family together, for the first time, with something other than secrets. Outside, the oak tree waited 2 beds in its sky fort, and drawings tacked to its walls, ready for whatever names the girls chose to shout from its railing. Questions came in ripples. At first, the living room was all breathing, and tears, and the strange lightness that followed, something heavy finally being put down. Then the air thinned, and thought slipped back in. Ren was the one who noticed the time. "I was supposed to practice," she said suddenly, lifting her head from Mason's chest. "My teacher said if I miss a day, she hears it forever." "She will live," Aurora said. Voice rough. Ren frowned. "She says that is not accurate." "We can have one August soap, we can have one inaccurate day," Aurora replied. But June sniffed and wiped her nose on the back of her hand. "We have lemonade," she announced, as if remembering a life before revelations. "And cookies." "That sounds like a reasonable next step," Mason said. They untangled from their knot on the floor. Knees cracked. Someone bumped the coffee table. The room felt different, wider and smaller at the same time. In the kitchen, June poured lemonade into 4 glasses. She spilled a little and did not bother to wipe it up immediately. Ren picked up a cloth and cleaned the ring off the counter without comment. "Thank you," Mason said. She shrugged. "Sticky counters make my hands feel weird," she said. They sat around the kitchen table. The chairs squeaked. The lemonade was too sweet. The cookies were slightly stale. No one complained. June stared at her glass. "So," she said, "if she is my sister, does that mean she lives here now?" "That is not how it works," Ren said quickly. Her grip on her glass tightened. "Maybe it is," June argued. "Maybe we can make it work like that." Mason rested his forearms on the table. "Ren will keep living with her mom," he said. "That part does not change. But now you know you are sisters. That changes other things. How often you see each other. Holidays. Who gets to tell whom to stop chewing so loud?" "I do not chew loud," Ren said. "You do when you are thinking," June replied. Aurora watched them, eyes moving back and forth, as if she were tracking a game she did not yet know the rules for. "What changes for you?" June asked her father. "Like on a scale from 1 to very." He almost laughed. "Very," he said. "In my head and my heart. But not in a way that makes you smaller. It makes the whole thing bigger." She considered that. "You have 2 kids," she said. "Plural." "Yes," he said. "Do we get more pancakes now?" she asked. "I think that can be arranged," he said. Ren's brow furrowed. "Do I have to change schools?" she asked. "If you are my dad." "No," he said. "Not unless you want to. We are not picking you up and moving you around like furniture." Her shoulders dropped an inch. "What about my name?" she asked. "Heart is on everything. My music, my files, the stupid locker chart." Aurora's hand twitched on the table. "You are still Ren Hart," she said. "That is yours. This is not about erasing what you have. It is about adding what you did not know you had." "So, I have 2 halves," Ren said. "A Hart half and a Reed half." "You have 1 whole," Mason said. "Your whole is Ren. The rest is just how we got you." She let that sit. June reached over and flicked a crumb off Ren's sleeve. "Do you want to sleep in the top or bottom bed?" she asked. "In the fort, when we make bunk beds." "There are no bunks," Mason started. Yet June said. Ren thought. "Top," she decided. "I like seeing roofs." "Done," June said. "You get top, but if you kick you are banned." "I do not kick," Ren said. "Everyone kicks," June replied. "You are just not awake to know." Aurora stood, then pushing her chair back. "I should get Ren home," she said. "She might sleep at some point this weekend if I bribe her with enough hot chocolate." Ren's face fell. "Do we have to go right now?" she asked. "Yes," Aurora said gently. "But we can come back tomorrow, if everyone is still breathing." "Tomorrow," June repeated, pleased. "We can finish the pulley." Ren slid off her chair. She picked up her tote bag, then set it down again and stepped toward Mason. "Can I hug you again?" she asked quietly. "Or is there a hug limit?" "There is no hug limit," he said. She wrapped her arms around him. It felt different now. Less like she was clinging to a dream, more like she was testing solid ground. At the door, June hugged Ren too, arms flung around her shoulders so hard their foreheads bumped. "Sister," June said into her hair, trying it on again. "Sister," Ren echoed. After they left, the house went still. The front door closed. The engine of Aurora's car faded down the street. Mason stood in the hallway for a long moment. June reappeared at his elbow. "So, that happened," she said. "Yeah," he replied. She looked up at him. "I am not mad at you," she said, "for not telling me. You did not know. I am mad at the situation. It is very bad at communicating." "That is fair," he said. She reached for his hand. Do you have more questions, he asked. She nodded. Lots, she said. They are in line. Like at the grocery store. They will keep coming. Good, he said. We will keep answering. She squeezed his fingers. I am glad she is mine, she said. She is hers too, he said. I can share, June said. Sometimes. That night, when the dishes were done, and the house was dark except for the lamp in the living room, June appeared in the doorway. She wore her favorite old t-shirt, the one with paint stains from the year before. Her hair was loose, falling over one eye. Dad, she said. Yeah, he replied. Are you sad? She asked. He thought about it. The day had carved new spaces in him. Joy sat in one, sharp and bright. Grief sat beside it, familiar and heavy. A little, he said, and a lot happy both. Because you missed stuff, she said, with her. Yes, he said, because I missed things, and because I have things now I did not have yesterday. She walked over and climbed onto the couch, pushing his leg aside with her foot, until she could lean against him. She did too, June said. Miss things. He nodded. Yeah, he said. June tucked her feet under herself. I am glad we are all telling the same story now, she said. He looked down at her. We are trying, he said. Across town in the Hart House, the story sounded different and the same. Wren sat on her bed, knees pulled up to her chest. The stuffed fox leaned against her leg. The ceiling above was dotted with glow in the dark stars. Aurora sat on the edge of the mattress, turned sideways so she could see her daughter's face. I am not mad, Wren said. Aurora's breath caught. You are not, she repeated. I am confused, Wren said, and my insides feel like they are running around. But I am not mad. Not yet. Maybe later. I do not know. That is allowed, Aurora said. All of it. Wren traced a finger over the seam of her blanket. Why did you not tell me sooner, she asked. Really? Not the short version. Aurora looked at her hands. I told myself I was protecting you, she said. I told myself I was protecting Mason's life. I told myself you were fine without that part. Those were the easy answers. The truer one is that I was scared. I was ashamed of the choices I made. I did not know how to untangle them without hurting people. So I did nothing which hurt people anyway, Wren said. Yes, Aurora said. You and him and June. Wren was quiet. I hate that I did that, Aurora said. If you are angry with me, you have every right to be. I can take it. Wren lifted her head. I do not want to throw things, she said. I just want you to stop making everything sound like a movie where you are the sad narrator. Aurora blinked. I'm not trying to, she said. I know, Wren replied. You just talk in stories. You did not give me this one. You kept it. Aurora winced. You are right, she said. Now we share it, Wren said. No more secrets about who is who. You can tell me the messy parts. I am 9, not 5. Aurora nodded. Okay, she said. No more secrets about who is who. Wren lay back, staring up at the ceiling. The stars glowed faintly. I always wanted to know what it felt like, she said. What felt like, Aurora asked. To say, Dad, and have someone answer, Wren said. Aurora looked down at her eyes, filling. You can say it now, Aurora said. He will answer. Wren smiled small and private. I know, she said. At Mason's house, Saturday settled into Sunday. The girls came back after lunch just as June had predicted. They spent the afternoon in the treehouse, voices drifting down in snatches. Sometimes they said sister, sometimes they did not. The word did not need to be in every sentence to stay real. On Monday morning, Mason stood at the kitchen counter packing lunches. He put an extra cookie in one bag, hesitated, then matched it in the other. Old habits about fairness surfaced quickly. June walked in, hair half braided, one sock on. Is Wren going to school like normal? She asked. Yes, he said. Normal is different, now not gone. Good, she said. If she changed schools, I would have to stage a protest. I do not have time for that. I have math. Later that day, while he sanded a table leg in the workshop, his phone buzzed. Wren Aurora had written, stole my phone to send this. A second message arrived. Hi, it is Wren. I am in math. They are talking about fractions. I am thinking about how families are fractions, but also not. I do not know how to say that in numbers yet. Okay, bye. He stared at the text, then typed back. Hi, it is Mason. I am in the workshop. I am thinking about how you should probably listen to your teacher sometimes, but also how I like your fractions talk. We can work on that together later. Okay, bye. A moment later, a simple reply. Okay, Dad. He read the 2 words several times, then set the phone down and pressed his thumb against the Thunderbird on his wrist. The ink felt the same as it always had. The story under it had shifted. The room around him held more than it used to. From the front of the house, faint through the walls, he heard the sound of the front door and June's voice calling out that she was home. He answered, voice steady. "Hey," he said, "I am here." Time moved, but it did not erase anything. It layered new days over the old ones, the way coats of varnish deepened the grain without changing what lay underneath. On a bright morning in early fall, Mason sat on a wooden bench outside the county courthouse. The building was red brick columns clean, and a little too proud for a town this size. The flag snapped in a light breeze. Cars moved slowly along the street. Aurora sat at the far end of the bench, a manila folder on her lap. Her hair was pulled back, but a few strands had escaped around her temples. She twisted her silver ring with her thumb. Inside the building, paperwork had been signed. Lawyers had spoken in low voices. A judge had nodded, asked a few questions, and stamped forms that meant something real. Wren Hart now had 2 parents listed in the official places. She wanted to know if her birth certificate changed color, Aurora said, looking straight ahead. Mason smiled. "Did you tell her what a thrilling beige the clerk handed us?" "I told her it got more true," Aurora said. They sat in silence for a moment. The courthouse doors opened and closed behind them, spilling air-conditioned cool into the warmth outside. "Thank you for not fighting me on any of this," Mason said. Aurora made a soft sound. "There was nothing to fight," she replied. "I have been holding all the power in this story for 9 years. It is a relief to hand some of it over." He nodded. "He asked if we planned to change her last name," he said. "Yes," Aurora said. "He did." "And we both said no," Mason added. "She is used to Hart," Aurora said. "It is on too many recital programs. Reed can live in the middle, quiet but present." "Wren Hart Reed," he said, testing the rhythm. "She said it sounds like a poem," Aurora replied. "She likes it." A dry leaf skittered along the courthouse steps, pushed by a gust. "How is she?" he asked. Excited, Aurora said. "Nervous? She thinks some grand visible change will occur. I tried to explain that it will be exactly the same and completely different." "That sounds about right," he said. They stood. The gravel in the parking lot crunched under their shoes as they walked back to their cars. At home, a new envelope joined the others in Mason's file drawer. Birth certificate copies, custody agreements, educational rights, words on paper that meant he had a say that doctors and teachers would look at him and Aurora and see equal weight. The day did not mark itself with fireworks. It settled into the house the way dust settled along baseboards, quietly and completely. Life found its own pace. Mondays, Wren stayed at the Hart House violin lessons, stretching into homework and late dinners. Tuesdays and Wednesdays often ended at Mason's place. The girls sprawled on the living room floor, one doing math, the other writing an English essay about a book they had both secretly read twice. Some Thursdays, Aurora would stop by the workshop. After a meeting at the foundation, her high heels in her hand, flats on her feet, carrying takeout from the Thai place down the road. "I am rescuing you from grilled cheese," she would say. "I make other things," he would argue. "You make grilled cheese and spaghetti," she would reply. "Both very well. Variety is still a virtue." Fridays, the girls took turns choosing where to sleep. Sometimes they both ended up at Mason's, sometimes at Aurora's, sometimes at one house for dinner, and the other just in time for brushing teeth and whispered conversations in the dark. The treehouse watched all of it happen. As September leaned into October, Mason finished the railing with extra care. He added a small roof over the sleeping corner, shingled with leftover cedar shakes. The smell of fresh-cut wood mixed with fallen leaves and the faint tang of distant chimney smoke. One Saturday, he installed the pulley system. The girls had been begging for it. "This is for important supplies only," he said, tying the rope off on a cleat fixed to one of the posts. "No lifting each other, no lifting pets, no lifting anything that could explode." "You are no fun," June said. "He is a little fun," Wren said. "He built an entire sky fort." They tested the pulley with a metal bucket. June sent up apples. Wren sent down books. A stuffed fox made the trip both ways. Inside, against one of the beams, Mason carved small initials, JWMA. The letters were not large, just deep enough for a fingertip to find. "What are you doing?" June asked, peering over his shoulder. "Leaving proof," he said. Of what she asked? "That we were here," he said. She considered that. "Henry knows," she said, patting the trunk. "Henry knows," he agreed. In town, another space changed. The old warehouse near Mason's workshop, which had once been a storage place for farm equipment, sprouted clean windows and a new sign. Aurora had bought it quietly, renovated it less quietly, and on a crisp evening unveiled a small gallery space that felt nothing like the gleaming white cube in New York. The walls were brick and plaster, imperfect in a way that made her smile. The floors were honey-colored wood. Light came from a mix of ceiling fixtures and borrowed lamps. Local painters hung next to a few pieces she had pulled from the foundation's storage, giving them a second chance. On opening night, people filtered through holding plastic cups of wine and small plates of cheese. Mason stood near the back, hands in his pockets, watching Ren and June make loops around the room. June stopped in front of a painting of a tree in winter branches, bare sky behind it, a startling blue. "It looks cold," she said, "but not sad." Ren tilted her head. "It looks like it is waiting," she said, for what June asked. The rest of the story, Ren replied. Aurora joined them, listening. "It was in a storage room," she said. "No one had put it up in years." "Now it is here," June said. "It looks better out." Aurora's eyes softened. "So do you," she said, touching a hand lightly to each girl's shoulder. Later, when the crowd thinned, Mason stood with her near the doorway, looking out at the street, where their two worlds had overlapped so messily. "You did good," he said. "With the gallery, or with the life choices that led us here?" she asked. "Both," he answered. She huffed a laugh. "The jury is still out on one of those," she said. "The gallery is definitely solid," he replied. She bumped her shoulder lightly against his arm. Winter came. The treehouse collected a dusting of snow on its roof one morning, thin and fragile as paper. The girls gazed up at it from the back door, mugs of hot chocolate in their hands. "It looks like a cake," June said. "It looks like the top of the world," Ren said. "Do not climb in it today," Mason said. "The boards will be slick." They observed this rule for several hours, then convinced him to let them sit just inside the hatch with blankets over their legs, watching their breath puff in the cold air. By the time spring arrived again, the wood had settled. The railings creaked less. The drawings tacked to the inside walls had multiplied. Some had been taped over others. A crooked thunderbird and marker still watched from one corner, drawn months ago by June, and meticulously improved by Ren. Summer circled back. On a warm afternoon that smelled of cut grass and sunscreen, Mason realized it had been almost exactly 1 year since the hardware store. He did not mark the date out loud, but the memory sat with him as he carried a stack of pillows out to the yard, tossing them up to the girls in the treehouse. "Catch," he called. A pillow arced and almost knocked June backward. She caught it with a whoop. Ren clapped. Aurora arrived later with a bag of marshmallows and a look that said she had let Ren eat too much sugar at some earlier event and was now passing the responsibility. They built a small fire in the metal ring at the edge of the yard. The sun slid lower, staining the sky orange. The treehouse glowed softly with the lantern the girls had insisted on. "They want to sleep up there tonight," Mason said, handing Aurora a stick with a marshmallow on it. "Catherine will write my resignation letter if she finds out," Aurora replied, then added, "Of course they can." The four of them sat around the fire, roasting marshmallows to various degrees of acceptability. June liked hers barely warm. Ren liked hers charred, the outer layer peeled off in strips. "College essays," June said, licking sugar from her fingers. "We can write about our traumatic childhood, being forced to sleep in a tree." "You are 8, Mason reminded her. "I am planning ahead," she said. As darkness settled fully, the girls climbed up to the fort, flashlights bouncing. Their voices drifted down in a jumble of plans for the next day, arguments over which side of the mattress belonged to whom, and a very particular discussion about where to put the snack box so raccoons could not reach it. Eventually the noise thinned, then faded. The light from the lantern above turned soft and steady. Aurora and Mason sat on the back steps, 2 bottles of beer between them, silence easy for once. "The first time you brought me here, Aurora said your dad was still alive. He stood by that tree and told me he had fallen out of it 3 times and still did not learn. I liked him immediately." "He liked you," Mason said. "He thought I was going to drag you to some city and never bring you back," she replied. "He was not entirely wrong," Mason said. "No," she agreed. They watched the treehouse for a while. The outline of the railing was clear against the lighter sky. The girls were invisible inside, but their breathing might as well have been audible from how present they felt. "Do you ever think about the other versions?" Aurora asked. "The ones where I called you from that bathroom, the ones where you came to New York, the ones where we tried to make something work in a tiny apartment with a screaming baby and a broken shower." "Sometimes," he said, "late, when I cannot sleep." "Do any of them look better than this?" she asked. He considered it. The tired from the day lay along his shoulders. His hands held the familiar roughness of work. His house had shoes in the hallway that were not all one size. His life had more noise, more moving pieces, more people to worry about. "No," he said. "They look different. They do not look better." She let out a breath that seemed to untie a knot inside her chest. "Good to know," she said. A breeze moved through the yard carrying the faint scent of smoke and leaves. Somewhere a dog barked, once then gave up. Above them in the treehouse a small voice murmured something unintelligible. Another answered, then quiet. Aurora tipped her head back against the step. "We did not make it easy," she said. "No," he said, "we did not." She looked over at him. "They are all right," she said, "aren't they?" He followed her gaze to the outline of the fort. "They are loved," he said, "by more people than they were before. That counts for something." She nodded. He stretched his legs out, ankles crossed. The hem of his sleeve shifted. The Thunderbird on his wrist caught the last of the firelight. The ink had not changed in 10 years. It was still the same bird flying into weather it could not fully see, one feather bent, wings open. He lifted his arm slightly, looking at it. Aurora noticed. She touched her own shoulder through the thin fabric where her matching bird lay hidden. "We were stupid," she said. "We were young," he said. "We thought the bird meant forever," she said. He smiled a little. "Maybe we were just wrong about what forever was," he said. She tilted her head. "Maybe it was never about us," he added. "Maybe it was about getting us here." Her mouth curved, slow and genuine. "Do not get poetic on me, Reed," she said. "Occupational hazard," he replied. They sat until the fire burned down to embers, the yard lit only by the soft glow from the treehouse and the porch light behind them. When Aurora left, she walked to her car with less hesitation than she had on that first day at the hardware store. She turned at the end of the path. "Text me if they sneak down," she said. "They will not," he said. They finally got the top bunk. She laughed quietly and drove away. Inside, Mason turned off the house lights one by one. The living room, the kitchen, the hallway. The night pressed gently against the windows. He stepped out to the yard once more and looked up. Two shapes lay side by side under the sloping roof of the treehouse. He could not see them clearly, but he knew which blanket belonged to whom, which lump was June's hair, which curve was Wren's shoulder. A corner of the sign they had hung on the railing caught his eye, the white paint crooked but legible. "June and Wren's fort, no adult's dad sometimes." He shook his head, smiling, and brushed his thumb once over the Thunderbird. Then he went inside, leaving the door unlocked, the porch light on, and the window nearest the tree cracked open just enough to hear if one of the girls called out in the dark. He did not know if they would. He knew without question that he would answer. Thank you so much for listening to today's story. If this story resonated with you or made you reflect, I'd love to hear your thoughts, so feel free to share them in the comments below. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you won't miss the next story.